Time slowed when they were near. He began subtly, a glance across the crowded street, a shared smile on the platform, and Sophia felt the world bend around her. The air thickened, shimmering with possibility. Even the sound of distant traffic seemed to fade into a soft hum, leaving only the pulse between them, steady, insistent, and alive. Christian's presence was no longer just a visual or mental echo. It was a current she could feel threading through her entire body. Every heartbeat, every inhalation, every tremor of muscle seemed to synchronize with his. It was as though the universe itself had folded the space between them, compressing minutes into heartbeats, distance into a shared breath. Sometimes in those brief moments, the world vanished entirely. One afternoon, she reached for the train railing, and he stepped beside her. Their shoulders brushed just lightly, but the sensation was seismic. Her pulse spiked, her skin tingled with warmth. The time slowed until seconds stretched into something near eternity. She could feel the memory of every touch they had shared in the dreams, every echo in her chest, every unspoken word vibrating in perfect resonance. The air around them hummed faintly, electric and alive. She could hear it, not sound in the conventional sense, but a subtle resonance like the ringing of crystal touched by a breeze. When their eyes met, it was no longer recognition alone. It was understanding, a silent dialogue that bypassed speech entirely. Sophia's chest rose and fell with a rhythm that matched his. A current ran along her arms and down to her fingers, as if her body were alive with invisible threads connecting them. When he shifted slightly, her own body responded instinctively. They laughed softly, almost in unison, at the same thought, and the same sound vibrated through the space between them like ripples on water. Time dilated. Moments that should have lasted a few seconds stretched into what felt like hours. The world outside the train, the people, the walls, the clattering tracks, faded into a muted haze. There was only this, him, her, and the pulse that connected them. In that quiet eternity, she realized something profound. This pull, this magnetic draw between them, was not just desire, it was recognition. A remembrance deeper than memory. Every glance, every breath, every tremor of shared presence carried the weight of countless lifetimes. She pressed a hand to her chest and felt it, the fire still burning there. Steady now, alive in perfect harmony with him. Her thoughts slowed, her senses sharpened, and she surrendered to the current. And in that surrender, Sophia understood. Some forces are stronger than time. Some connections cannot be broken. Some pulls are written in the every fabric of being. She looked at him again, and for a single suspended heartbeat, she saw everything. Every past, every future, every echo in his gaze. And he saw her. Time exhaled. The pull held them, and neither wanted to let go. The train was crowded, the morning clamor humming around them. Yet Sophia felt a bubble of stillness whenever Christian was near. Their hands brushed fleetingly against the same rail, a touch so light it could have been mistaken for accident, and her chest erupted in fire. She bit her lip, heart racing as though the ghost of their dream had spilled into reality. His gaze lingered, sharp and intense, and she felt the pull inside her, the same pull that had drawn her across the city, across lifetimes. She wanted to reach for him, to close the space between them, but the world pressed in, strangers, routine, the impossibility of the moment. All they could do was feel each other, silent, tethered by invisible threads. Even so, that silent tether was enough, and at night the world released them. Dreams bloomed in vivid flame, sweeping away the mundane. Sophia would wake in his arms, pressed against the heat of his chest, the rhythm of his heartbeat syncing perfectly with hers. His lips found hers in fiery, consuming kisses, each one a declaration of the depth of his desire, the certainty of his claim. In the dream, she was entirely herself, feminine, receptive, alight with longing. He was entirely himself, strong, commanding, and gentle in the way that only someone who had held her soul across centuries could be. Every touch was a conversation, every kiss was a confession, every embrace a melding of fire and flames. They were one fire, swirling together, impossible to separate. Mornings always came too soon these days. She would awaken alone in her apartment, the lingering heat of his energy whispering along her skin, her lips tingling with the echo of his. Her pulse still throbbed in anticipation, every cell aching to close the gap left by reality's restraint. The next day the train would press them together again, shoulders brushing, knees almost touching, stolen glances that spoke louder than words. Every subtle movement, every electric spark of the proximity carried the residue of their dreams, the memory of fire, of lips, of unrestrained passion. He looked at her once and held her gaze a moment too long, and she felt it, the promise of what the night had already revealed. But in the light of the crowded carriage, all he could do was pull at her silently, a magnetic tension, a private dance that only their hearts understood. Sophia swallowed against the heat rising in her chest. The world would not yet allow what the dreams had shown, and yet the pull, it persisted. Her fingers brushed the railing as his hand moved just slightly closer along the same metal bar, a proximity that should have been insignificant, but for them it was everything. The flame in her chest roared, wild and untamed, demanding, whispering, aching. She closed her eyes for a soft single moment, letting herself feel it fully, the ache of absence, the joy of recognition, and the fire that could not be contained. And somewhere in the dreamscape, the night would come again. They would meet where bodies and souls could burn freely, where she could melt into his embrace and he could take her completely, showing her the depth of the fire they had ignited together. The train could only hold their bodies apart. The dreams held them together in ways reality could not yet contain. And in that tension, in the exquisite yearning, the pull between them grew stronger than anything else. The train rattled and swayed, the morning crowd pressing in around them, but Sophia barely noticed. Every glance at Christian was electric, every subtle shift in his posture a spark along the invisible thread between them. Her fingers brushed the railing, his hand was just an inch away. She felt the magnetic pull that had haunted her dreams ripple through her chest, a pulse that demanded attention. Their eyes met and she saw it there, the reflection of the fire that had burned in their dreams, restrained but undeniable. A cough from someone behind them, the jostle of a stranger, reality intruded. She tore her gaze away, breathing shallow, the memory of his lips and the heat of his hands clinging to her like a second skin. Even in those fleeting touches, the brush of a shoulder, the almost brush of fingers, the pull between them hummed, a quiet promise vibrating under their skin. When sleep came, the world shifted, dreams opened like doors into another plane, a realm where boundaries melted, where the fire between them could no longer be contained. Christian's hands claimed her with certainty, his lips scorching and tender all at once. Every kiss was a language, each one saying what words could never hold. I have found you, you are mine, and we are one. Sophia melted into him, receptive and radiant, her body attuned to every nuance of his touch. She felt his strength, his decisiveness, his active presence guiding the dance of flame between them. Her heart opened fully, yielding to the fire, to the sensation of being entirely known, entirely received. They moved together like a single pulse, one body, one breath, one fire. The dreams gave them freedom, freedom to explore every layer of desire, every fold of tenderness, every depth of longing that reality restrained. And yet again morning returned too soon, the train's metal rails pressed against, cold under her palm. The crowd thick and oblivious, but the residue of their night together lingered, the echo of heat in her chest, the faint vibration of his energy threading through her, the memory of lips and hands that burned across her skin in ways she still could feel. Christian's shoulder brushed hers again. She felt it in every nerve, every cell, a muted echo of what the night had delivered. He caught her glance, a faint smile tugging at his lips. Their private fire whispered between them, unspoken but utterly alive. Sophia closed her eyes for a heartbeat, letting the tension stretch, savoring it. Every moment apart, every touch denied, made the pull between them stronger and more insistent. Her pulse thumped with awareness. The physical world would only allow so much, but the dreams would always return to give them everything reality could not. They were tethered, not just by desire, but by something deeper, a rhythm older than time itself, a fire that could not be extinguished. The days began to blur, the line between waking and dreaming thinning with each encounter. On the train, a subtle language had begun to form, a tilt of his head, the briefest lift of an eyebrow, a half smile that lingered just long enough to set her pulse racing. Christian's gaze always spoke volumes, and Sophia answered in kind. A glance, a quick inhale, a hand adjusting a sleeve as if to acknowledge the silent conversation. She realized with awe that they were learning to communicate without words. A thought, a longing, an unspoken question, all could be sent and received across the magnetic thread that bound them. Even in the crowded, noisy train, she could feel him thinking, here, now, look at me. And she did, her chest thumping as their pulses danced together. The world around them felt slower, muted, irrelevant. Other commuters moved like shadows, unaware of the fire crackling between them. The brush of shoulders, the near touch of hands, became an intimate language, each moment stretching into eternity without breaking the rhythm of their connection. And at night, when sleep reclaimed her, the world dissolved entirely. Dreams became their true meeting ground, a place where no boundaries existed. Christian claimed her fully there in ways both tender and commanding, and she responded in full radiance, feminine, open, receptive to every flicker of his desire. They moved together in flames, the rhythm of their bodies matching the rhythm of their hearts, their souls intertwining. Each kiss, each touch, each whispered breath reinforced the magnetic pull, building a fire that burned brighter than the sun. Sometimes in these dreams he would lift her effortlessly, holding her against him while their flames entwined, and she would feel herself dissolving into him, not losing herself, but merging into something greater, a single current of heat, light, and energy. He showed her in every movement how deeply he felt, how active his desire was, guiding, taking the lead, giving shape to the passion they shared. She surrendered gladly, her body alive, her senses heightened, drinking in every spark of his attention. By morning the contrast was exquisite and cruel. The train could not allow their flames to meet, yet the residue of fire lingered in every nerve. A brush of hands, a shared glance, the faint echo of his energy made her knees weak. Every suppressed touch left her trembling with longing, the tension between them almost unbearable. And yet it strengthened the pull. Every denied moment in reality made their connection in dreams more urgent and more vivid. Every day of near contact, every stolen glance, every single conversation without words fed the fire, building towards something inevitable, uncontainable. Sophia realized breathless that this pull was no longer merely desire, it was gravity, a force older than thought or reason, drawing them together across space, across reality, until finally there would be no distance left to deny them. And somewhere deep in her soul she knew, when that moment came, their flames would merge completely, body, heart, and spirit, and the universe itself would hum in recognition. The pull had grown stronger than ever. Sophia felt it first in her chest, a steady, insistent pressure that hummed beneath her ribs, demanding her attention. Every thought of him sparked a current through her nerves, every breath seemed to carry his presence even closer. The city itself responded. Streetlights flickered in patterns that matched her heartbeat. A sudden wind swirled around her as she walked, tugging at her hair, and for a moment she thought she could feel him moving just ahead, invisible but tangible. On the train, the coincidences became impossible to ignore. A commuter dropped a notebook. It slid across the floor, stopping at her feet. Flipping it open, she found a page scribbled with numbers and notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. The sequence that had followed her like a secret drumbeat. Her heart jumped and she instinctively looked up. Christian was standing across the aisle. Their eyes met. The hum of the train, the chatter, the squeal of brakes all fell away. In that suspended instant, the magnetic tension between them became almost unbearable. Her fingers itched to reach for him. His hand twitched as though he wanted the same, but the crowded train held them apart. That night their dreams roared. They met in a place that seemed spun from molten light and shadow, a realm of flame and air, and he pulled her into his arms with no hesitation, no restraint, and she melted against him, their bodies igniting as one. His lips were urgent and claiming, his hands mapping the flame that had always lived in her. She gave herself to him fully, receptive, alive, her energy pouring into the fire that united them. He moved around her with strength and precision, showing her exactly how he felt, every kiss and touch a declaration of possession and reverence. They burned together, bodies and souls entwined, a single flame flickering and folding in on itself, yet expanding endlessly. Morning came too soon again. Reality was less forgiving. The train was cramped, the city indifferent, and yet the fire lingered in every nerve ending, making every accidental brush of their hands, every glance again across the platform, a near sacred moment. They could not touch freely, but the pull between them hummed so loud it was nearly visible, a tether of flame threading through the air, connecting them across the mundane. And then small miracles began to occur. A bird landed exactly where Christian would pass, guiding him toward her without his conscious thought. A song playing from the street musician just as she turned a corner, a melody that they had shared in dreams. Even reflections in windows or puddles began to flicker with fragments of his image when he was near her. Every coincidence, every spark, every pulse of the universe was a signal, a hint. The universe was drawing them together again. Sophia's breath caught in her throat. The pull was no longer subtle. It had become irresistible. She felt the edges of her reality trembling around her, waiting for the moment when dreams and waking life would collide. Her pulse echoed with his. Her heartbeat mirrored his. Somewhere deep inside, she knew it could not be long before the fire broke through. The dreams, the pulls, the echoes of the flame, all were converging toward a single point, and when that point came, nothing could hold them apart. The train slowed to a stop, and Sophia's heart nearly skipped a beat. Christian was there, just a few feet away, and the pull between them hummed louder than ever, vibrating through her chest, her arms, her fingertips. It was no longer a whisper, it was a roar that the world could no longer mute. This time there was no accident, no fleeting brush of hands. Their eyes locked and something unspoken passed between them, a recognition that spanned lifetimes. She stepped closer and he met her halfway. The space between them shrank until it was measured only by inches. Her fingers trembling as she brushed his sleeve. The touch was electric, igniting every nerve ending. His gaze softened, a warm, commanding intensity that made her knees weak. She felt herself drawn into him as if by gravity, every pulse and every heartbeat in perfect rhythm. Sophia, he whispered, low and urgent, almost drowned by the ambient noise, yet it reverberated directly inside of her. Christian, she breathed back, the syllables trembling on her lips, carrying all the weight of desire, longing, and recognition from their dreams. His hand found hers, fingers interlacing, and the world fell away. The train, the crowd, the rumbles of the wheels, all dissolved. All that existed was the pull, the fire threading through them, the echo of night spent in flames of passion and longing. She pressed closer, feeling the warmth radiate from his chest through her own. Every small, conscious touch mirrored what they had shared in dreams. The kiss of fingers, the subtle curve of arms around shoulders, the brush of lips against cheek or temple, each moment an unspoken continuation of nights spent burning together. He leaned in slightly, just enough for their foreheads to touch. Her breath mingled with his, carrying the memory of kisses that had scorched her in her dreams. She could feel his desire, strong and sure, commanding and tender all at once, a perfect balance of masculine energy guiding her fully into the fire between them. Their hands moved instinctively, exploring the electric tension left by denied touches. The longing forged in dreams. She felt herself opening, fully feminine, fully receiving, fully alive, responding to every subtle cue, every pressure, every heat of his palm against hers. A laugh escaped her lips, soft and tumultuous, and he smiled in return, a mixture of awe, reverence, and hunger. For the first time in the waking world, they could let themselves feel the fire that had burned untamed in their dreams. Fingers brushing, lips hovering, pulses synced. A dance of flames contained only by the boundaries of reality, yet surging with the same intensity that had consumed them at night. Sophia felt it. The pull had led them here. The echoes had guided them. The dreams had prepared them. And now, awake, they could finally feel and meet in full awareness, flame to flame, pulse to pulse, heart to heart. Time slowed again, a perfect suspended moment. They were no longer apart, no longer waiting. The universe had converged, bringing them to the point they had always been moving toward, together, fully alive, tethered by a fire older than memory. And in that moment, Sophia understood that this was only the beginning.